All right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the KIRIO House podcast. The goal here is to have interesting conversations with interesting people. And today I've got Greg Ireton, who is, I've only known him for, I guess, close to 2 years now, kind of since I got into the real estate world. But you have like a huge background in banking, lending, finance, and you've recently made a transition into home building.
Correct.
And so, I mean, you like are right in line with everything I'm doing. So I'm kind of excited to sit down and have this conversation with you, get to know you a little bit better and more personal level. And also hopefully we can get into some like nuts and bolts of what's going on in lending, banking, home building right now, because real estate's still crazy.
That's right. Yeah, grew up in Guthrie. My grandmother, her first husband passed away, but she remarried a guy that was a home builder, immigrated here from Czechoslovakia. And if you know the Klassen Curve area now, Aubrey McClendon purchased that. So back in the late 40s, my grandfather, or I consider him my grandfather, he developed that and built houses there. And so I always kind of grew up with real estate on the brain just by osmosis, from my grandmother, because she had some rental properties and he taught her how to invest and do things. So
when you say he, you mean Aubrey?
No. Okay. So her second husband, his name was Albert Peschel.
Okay.
And they got married before I was born. So I always kind of considered him my grandfather. And, but like I say, he was a builder and developer, and he developed the neighborhood that was around 57th, 56th in Klassen. Some of the old folks would know where the old Split Tea restaurant used to be. So Aubrey wanted that land really bad, and they were buying houses and tearing it down.
For people that don't know Aubrey, and I don't know, I just know of him. I've heard his name thrown around a lot, but he owns a lot of land.
Correct. Yeah. Here. Now, unfortunately, he unfortunately died, passed away, but he was the CEO and the creator of Chesapeake Energy.
Was he really?
Yeah. So that created all these great jobs and kind of all the fracking revolution, natural gas revolution here in Oklahoma. But he had a taste for buying real estate, and if he wanted it, he would get it.
Yeah. He's one of those guys.
So as he expanded the Chesapeake campus, he eyeballed that neighborhood that my grandfather developed, and my grandmother, she was actually the last one to sell out. They were offering her money for 3 or 4 years, and she kept, I don't want to move. This is where I'm happy. And what would it cost me to replace this piece of real estate? She had a little garage apartment in the back that she rented out. So, anyway, she finally got the offer that was acceptable, and
encouraged her enough to make the move.
Right. But,
so that was your first sort of like experience with real estate or real estate investment was through your grandmother,
right?
And
her husband. Just learned a lot. He'd save every cut off board. He didn't waste anything.
Yeah.
Grew up in the, went through the Depression years.
Waste not, want not.
Waste not, want not. And so that's where it kind of first dawned on me that, wow, here's somebody that's doing something that doesn't have to work for somebody, have a 9 to 5, and grinds and does it on his own, and he's, built up a nice living over the years. But
so have you, like, in your own personal experience and career, like, have you always been in real estate investment? Have you managed rental properties or bought and sold? Or
right. What? Yeah, so transitioning from when he passed away, he left me a bond that was going to be for my college.
Okay.
And so I played baseball, and I was able to get a scholarship. So my grandmother said, well, hey, I don't want you to go blow this on something stupid. Let's buy a piece of real estate with it. And oddly enough, my partners, Bo and Krista, that Bo's grandfather, Duffy Martin, was developing the new Cimarron National Golf Course at the time. And
so
I liked to play
What year
golf.
was this?
This would have been 94,
okay.
Somewhere around there. So I thought it'd be a good idea to maybe buy a lot out there because getting back into getting lucky with real estate, my wife, Tasha, her dad was a builder as well. So when I wasn't playing summer baseball or going to school, it's kind of hard to find a job when you have sports and academia in your life.
Yeah.
He would let me come, he roofed houses, he framed, concrete, just kind of the whole gamut. So I was just a greenhorn that didn't know anything. And he said, well, hey, if you're going to date my daughter, I'm going to come pay you $5 an hour to come do some grunt work for me. So that was nice because I didn't know what I was doing, but I saw the process of new construction and learned a lot from him. So he was building houses out there at Cimarron National, and I saw these lots come up for sale. And I said, Grandma, I think I want to maybe use that bond money and buy a lot out here, and just maybe I want to have my own house out here one day.
Okay.
So ended up purchasing the lot, and 4 or 5 years later, probably not going to move out here, and sold the lot. I don't know, maybe cleared $10,000-$12,000. I don't know what it was, but
You made a
I
profit.
was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't have to do anything.
Right, and so it kind of taught me a little bit about appreciation, and using my father-in-law, we bought some other lots in town and built a couple duplexes.
Okay.
And just recently sold those. Krista actually just sold those for me.
Nice. Are those the ones I heard about out on the west side of town?
No, I think those are my banker Jed's.
Oh,
Jed
Jed's.
Magnet.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine were actually closer to Pine in college.
Okay, I got you.
So obviously made lots of mistakes, but learned a lot. You just kind of jump in there and figure out how to swim when you get there.
That is like a hugely impactful statement.
Sure.
You made a ton of mistakes,
Oh, gosh.
but you learn from them. I'm a big believer that when you come to any scenario, whether it be your career or whatever you're trying to learn, if you come to it with the mindset of a learner or a student, you're going to do fine and you're going to excel because you know that you're not approaching it like, hey, I already know this, or I've already got that idea or whatever. You come to it as like, hey, I know I've got shit to learn, and you just sit and watch and observe and listen.
Yeah, because college, nothing against Guthrie High School or University of Central Oklahoma, but I was a 2.9 GPA. I wasn't very smart. I lacked attention span. Reading comprehension's terrible. But you kind of learn the process of how do you solve problems, and trying to figure out. And finance was my degree, So what am I going to do in the finance arena that I can solve problems for my employer that obviously relate to solving problems for your customers. So, you don't know anything at first, but when you see other people solve problems in real estate, finance, or building, construction, by osmosis, you just have to get better or you're going to sink or swim.
Yeah.
So
when you went to school for finance, what did you have in your mind that you wanted to do?
I didn't know. Like I said, my grandmother kind of instilled a investing mindset. Don't blow your money on stupid things, doodads.
Yeah.
Buy things that are assets. And so in order to have assets, you got to have gold, right? And so the golden rule is the banker makes the rules, follow the golden rules. So banking always kind of intrigued me, but also liked investments. That was back when 94, 95, you could throw a dart at the wall and any stock you bought would go up in price.
Yeah. That went on until what, 2001?
Right. Yeah. There were some ups and downs along the way. So so I thought, well, heck, I'll just get this degree and I'll manage money for people. This is easy.
Yeah.
And so got out of college and worked for John Hancock Financial Services, and didn't know. I knew terminology, but I didn't know a lot of the big structures that was involved with people that had a lot of money.
Yes.
Obviously they got there not needing this little guy, figure it out. So after 3 years of beat my head against the wall trying to do that, you get told no enough and got a house payment and a car payment to figure out. I was like, man, maybe I need to get back into something that's a little bit I can handle. So I got invited back to Guthrie to be a banker. Rob Hudson was on the board of a local bank here at the time. Greg, what are you doing? I said, well, trying to sell insurance and mutual funds, not doing so well. And, have you ever thought about being a banker? I was like, not really, but I like money, right? So,
well, and that's smart. So one of my favorite financial books, I don't know if you've ever read it, it's the Richest Man in Babylon.
Sure.
Okay. So that has by far been one of the most impactful bits of knowledge financially that I've ever read. And I love the book because he tells it in all these anecdotes. It's kind of like the Bible that you learn through stories.
Sure.
And one of the stories that he tells is about the lender, the gold lender. Mm-hmm. And so he goes on, without just telling the whole story, he goes on to elaborate and explain why being a lender is such a great thing. It's because the world sort of economically revolves around money. So like you're saying, the person that controls the gold will always have the upper hand, or they'll always make the rules. And so if you're thinking, hey, how do I, make it in this world, or, financial industries, obviously, that's a great place to start and to learn.
Right.
And I think you can take all of the education from the financial industry into all these ancillary services like real estate or, project development, construction, or whatever it is. But
Right. And, a lot of times you hear about the evil bankers and, Wall Street and all that stuff. You got to be able to filter through some of the nonsense to know why it's so important to have a banking relationship or figure out how to obtain money. Because otherwise you're just going to be a W-2 guy, or nothing wrong with that. But it's hard to build any kind of significant assets or net worth by just working for somebody else.
you don't get rich with a W-2.
No. And, in real estate, for somebody like me that maybe has a harder time with more complex financial things, it's anybody can get into it. Every real estate deal, though, has its own complexities, as I'm sure you've learned.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't get to the table without the banker.
Yeah.
Especially,
you have to have the money.
especially in the beginning. So working at the bank, in conjunction with knowing a little bit about construction, I was able to start doing construction loans for builders. And so you just kind of learn the process. And, you learn it's not that hard once you learn what the steps are to get there. So, yeah, if I was going to tell somebody wanting to get into real estate, get in a relationship with a banker and find out what it is you got to do to make you look good to them. It's not hard. You just have to have some financial discipline.
How would someone, so I kind of stumbled into my relationship with my lender, who's Brandon Samples with AMS. I ended up getting linked up with him because I was cold calling, and I was calling around a neighborhood in Edmond and got a hold of his stepmom. And I was asking her if she would be interested in selling. And she said, you need to talk to my husband, call this guy. Yeah. And so I called him, and he said, yeah, I'd like to talk about selling. Why don't you come out? Anyway, he's a mortgage lender or a mortgage broker. And went through that whole process selling his house, which ended up being like a 7-month endeavor. Even in this market, we were asking top dollar. And, that was a huge experience or learning experience, because we're asking top dollar, and we were offering a product that was, like, I don't want to say subpar, but it needed some love. Exterior needed love, interior needed love, updating, and so thankfully he knew he wanted to sell, and he wanted to get the biggest return, and so he would do a little bit here. We'd put it back on the market, see if we could, reel in a buyer. Nope. Okay. We pull it off, do a little bit more, and then put it back on. Anyway, so I ended up getting linked up with his son, who's the VP of the company. And I've just sort of stumbled into that relationship, but it's been great having someone on my side who's in the financial industry, has the connections and the knowledge and the expertise, and I can, reach out and pick his brain on, how to get a certain buyer qualified, or can we do this deal? Or, we've gotten a lot of tricky deals done just because I've got that relationship with him.
Right.
But for another agent, maybe someone newer than I am, how do you go about creating value for a lender so that you can get their attention? And like, what can you offer them?
Well, fortunately, we're not in this position now, but there will probably come a time again where banks are going to have what they call ORE on their balance sheet, which is called other real estate owned. So like repos, right? So as a realtor or somebody that has networked and finds a lot of real estate investors, I saw a lot of people do well with banks, not even having a cash down or whatever, but the realtors were able to find people like yourself that maybe knew just enough to either rehab a property, make it, they've had some success before doing it. Well, banks are a lot more eager to, hey, I'll get you into this property that I have on my books and I'm trying to get off for no money down, or as long as you're going to put in the sweat equity, put some lipstick on it, whatever needs to be done to get it sold. So if I was a young realtor, establishing some relationships with some lenders that might have some problem assets,
Okay.
Like, granted, we're not necessarily in that time right now, but still to this day, you can pull up any county in the state and find some sheriff sales or tax sales or whatever. You can kind of look and see who has the mortgage on that.
Well, and we might not be there now,
Right.
but
It
this is
still
all
goes on.
cyclical.
No,
Yeah.
sure.
And so eventually we will be. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I'm hearing you right, I hear let's get these relationships established
Yeah.
now so that when the time comes,
Yeah.
you're not fighting for, some of these bankers' attention while
Right.
every other realtor is.
Right. Yeah. So just making those connections, and like the thing that you did that was great with your banker was, you figured some stuff out. Maybe everything didn't go to plan, but you got to the finish line.
Yes.
And you showed that banker like, hey, I can deal with obstacles, forge ahead, and get the deal done. And then it's kind of just like anything in life. You prove yourself a couple times, it becomes easier for you to call them. They're going to pick up the phone or email them, whatever. Hey, here's a deal I got working. This is kind of how I want to get there. How do you see it? Am I on the right track of thinking? Yeah. What do I need to do to secure a mortgage with you, or find a way to get a more complex deal done? It might not be for you, like you say, a
Sure.
customer of yours.
Yeah.
Like, here's a situation, whatever the obstacle may be. Maybe they're self-employed and they don't have 2 years worth of verifiable income. How do I get around that? There's always ways, but it's not always a straight path.
Well, and so in your experience coming from lending, so you were at Great Plains Bank most recently. Do you if I have I don't want to say trouble client, but someone that's harder to get financed, would you have more success bringing them to a local bank or going through a mortgage broker, or what about big banks like B of A, Wells Fargo, Chase? Because of the volume, are they more likely to do?
You would probably strike out with the bigger ones.
Okay, because you don't fit in their mold.
Right. You do. Every box has to be checked. So local bankers. That's the nice thing about local banks, that can maybe fudge a little areas, whatever. But lots of times you don't know what the problem might be, but those credit counseling services are so helpful. I've seen so many people in a 90-day or 6-month period be able to just get rid of little dinky things that maybe has their credit score not in the right. You have to be a 620, right, or 640 these days.
Yeah.
So you run across some people that are a 580, and you look at their credit report, and maybe it's like you really only have 2 or 3 things here that are making this look unbankable.
Okay. So in that instance, if you just clear up these 2 things,
right,
then, hey, 30, 60 days from now, your credit score could be 40 points higher.
Right. So getting with a credit counselor, or, we had a mortgage department at our bank, and they'll have phone numbers you can call, just like, hey, call this number, this credit agency that can kind of direct you to how to call. And say you have a $500 medical bill. And I've seen instances where, hey, if you'll just send us $200 and we'll wipe it clean, or pay us $10 a month.
Does that actually work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it works. But you have to stay on top of it. So you start the process, and 45, 60 days later, then you want to reach out to that person again, say, make sure, are you reporting this, to the credit bureau? And then you can get it re-pulled and follow up that it's been done. But you could bump your score 80 points by just turning something into a charge-off into a performing loan or debt or whatever that's on your credit report. So,
okay.
Lots of times, like you say, every situation's different.
Yeah.
Some people have a bankruptcy. That's maybe a harder deal to get through.
I've got one right now. And this woman, I mean, I would love to help her out. She's in a position where her house is appreciated so much that she feels like it's the right time to cash out, sell her house. And she's been wanting for a long time to get out on, an acre or 2, even kind of downsizing. Her kids are grown. She was divorced a few years ago, and she's like, I just want to, she breeds dogs. And she's like, I want to be out on an acre or 2 where I can, breed dogs and run my thing, and that's it. But when she got divorced, she ended up having to file bankruptcy.
Right.
And man,
maybe no fault of her own.
No. But that's really hurt our ability to find her lending. And so is there, in your experience, just out of curiosity, is there anything you can do to get past that, or do you just need to wait until that's been discharged?
One way I'd maybe go about it would be, it's easier for a bank to maybe go a commercial loan route than a consumer loan.
Really?
So say she runs dogs for a living, right? Or doggy daycare, whatever it may be. Well, let's see if we can let's form an LLC and buy this property in a business
Oh, wow.
mindset. And, go to a local bank, say, here's why my bankruptcy happened. Here's things I'm doing to correct it. I've got great equity. You can't have bad cash flow, bad credit, and bad down payment. You can't have all three.
Yeah.
But if we can eliminate two, okay, I can deal with your bankruptcy, but we're going to repair your credit moving forward, and you've got good equity.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure out, okay, well, let's form an LLC. That way there's no minimum credit score necessarily. We'll get it bought, and as you repair your credit down the road, we could deed it back to yourself individually if you ever wanted to refinance it when your credit's good enough to do a 30-year mortgage. A local bank, you might be on a 15 or 20-year AM.
Okay.
But if you have a lot of equity, if you can get it 70% of purchase price or less,
Yeah.
a bank might let you do interest only for a year or 18 months.
Okay.
That way your payment's not out of whack, and it gives you a year or 18 months to fix whatever little credit issues you have.
Well, and see, her credits, I mean, she's over 680.
Okay, so she just
it's
has
like,
the bankruptcy.
Yeah, she's got the bankruptcy. But, I mean, she's got good income. She's got a ton of equity in the house. Credit's decent. But that bankruptcy's killing her.
Right. And, somebody like you, what I see that you do, you always like to go above and beyond for your customer.
Yeah.
And, I found this to be true. So if you really want a deal to happen, it's like, well, hey, Miss Customer, I tell you what, maybe it's intimidating to go to the bank because you've been told no before since of this bankruptcy. I'll come with you to the bank. Let's sit down with a banker so I can help interpret the terminology or paint the picture that the bank needs to hear.
I like that.
That way the banker might ask her a question when she's on her own. You're just kind of waiting for her to call you and say, well, how'd it go? Well, and she gives the banker kind of a deer in the headlights look on a response.
Yeah.
But if
or says, I don't know. Or,
right.
And you're like, no, why'd you say that?
Yeah. So kind of have a plan before you go in.
Okay.
I do a lot of things that way because I know a little about a lot, but not much about a lot of things too. So having good partners, so partnering up with your client to find people or you could say, hey, Greg, you're a retired banker. Would you be willing to meet with me and this lady at the bank, and we can let's get a yellow pad out before we go in, and let's figure out a plan.
Yeah. Well, we might have to connect about that after the fact. I know she'd like to try and get somewhere, or at least get that definitive answer. Like, can I do it or not? Like, is there a way forward, or should I just be waiting?
And I see we'll
have to follow up on that.
Lots of realtors. I'm sure you see this, but it's easy to give up.
It's too easy.
This, that, not going to happen.
I think that's where a lot of realtors, especially newer realtors, and maybe experienced realtors too, fail, is they hit something like, I've got a young lady and her new husband buying a house in Guthrie, $150,000 house, not, this huge deal, but she's young and doesn't have any credit. And the husband has poor credit. And so a lot of people would just look and say, like, I mean, how are you going to make that work? And we just put our heads together. I want to help them, and we're doing some creative stuff. We brought her dad into the deal, and he's adding her to one of his established credit accounts. She's got a credit score now, and it's a good one. Right. And so now she's able to get qualified for this mortgage and get into her house. And I mean, it's kind of a dream come true for her. So,
well, lots of times, a young couple or just people in general, maybe they're a little stubborn or just prideful, or there's no shame in saying, my first house is $42,000, but I didn't have any credit. I had to go to my dad and say, Dad, I don't have any credit. Would you co-sign a loan with me? It's just, he did it, had some money put down. Sometimes it'd be that simple, but yeah, just as a realtor, that would be priority one, having some bankers in your corner that'll listen to you.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not trying to bring you a bad deal. Yeah. Can I show you how I think this will work? Okay. Don't make them think it through. Already have a plan when you go in, like, I know this looks rough on the surface, but here's how I think we can make it bankable, fit your criteria.
Okay.
And then, like I say, if you do that enough times and they get a good customer out of the deal, makes it that much easier for them to listen to you as the realtor later.
Yeah. I
And
that.
just when you serve other people, Craig, he really saw. No other realtor would have solved this problem, or no other bank would have solved this problem.
Yeah.
And
you before long develop a reputation for helping people, getting deals done, and even like when you say on the surface, if it looks sticky, but you can figure out a way to get it done, and then they're like, hey, I mean that was a rough deal, but I mean it worked out.
It worked out.
And
you're not going to win them all.
Yeah.
But can't steal second with your foot on first.
I like that.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
yep.
I would just encourage people to not be discouraged. You get told no by the bank a couple times, or you're just like, oh, those evil guys, it's not going to happen.
You said something just now. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
And I love that so much because I'm a big believer. I haven't always been like this, but I am a big believer that there is no success in life without risk. And so you just kind of took a big risk yourself a little while back.
Right.
I think you could call it a risk, but
yes.
You left a very good job with the bank and kind of went out, not on your own. You went out with Bo and Krista, but tell me about that. What do you guys have going on?
So right at I guess to back up a little bit, I've known Bo since I was little. I told you the story. My first piece of real estate I bought from his grandpa.
Yeah.
And, Bo got into real estate he's told you the story.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great story how he's gotten into real estate, and obviously.
Actually, I'm going to tell it real quick.
Yeah,
because I think it's fantastic. So we were talking about this the other day. We went to the ambassador training for Exit, and this was the first time I had heard him say it, I think. But he said that he got into real estate, or he was in real estate for 2 weeks before he even found out. And he said that I think he said Christmas morning, he opened something up and Krista had got him, paid for his classes to get the real estate license. And he was like, I guess this is happening.
Got to commit.
Yeah. And so I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
He didn't even know he was doing it when he was doing it.
Oh man. And what a success. And like you said, when he told me the story, he's like, man, I know when I let Krista do this, she's just going to run right over me, be a bulldog at it, which she is. She's great at it. But anyway, so I was in the banking world and met Bo. I knew Bo, but he said, Greg, man, we're trying to move some lots out here at Cedar Valley, and you've built houses before, and you do construction lending. Can you help me do something? Kind of like we're talking about, solving problems. And so did a couple construction loans where he was kind of the realtor, but kind of overseeing a builder, kind of basically being a superintendent on a job. And I don't think made any great money, but moved a couple lots, and he and I kind of got to know each other more on a business level.
Were you guys friendly growing up?
He's 4 or 5 years younger than me, so it's not like we were running around buddies. But
I got you.
But always interacted well with Bo growing up. Knew great family and easy guy to hang out with. So as we did a couple business deals together through the bank and through his realtor office, and I'd send Krista stuff over the years. We just kind of built a rapport where he finally just said, Greg, I know I'm not saying quit being a banker, but let's build some houses together. Let's just you and I partner up on it. And so you kind of got to walk that line. You don't necessarily want your employer to think that you're focusing all your attention on being a builder, or have any conflict of interest. So I said, Bo, if you'll kind of help me rodeo checking on subs and, I'll help when I can. I'll pay all the bills, do all the back accounting, and in the evenings just to kind of keep up. I said, let's try one. So this kind of gets back to, thinking outside the box. It's like, how can we do this with the least amount of risk? So we talked to the golf course about, Bo's dad, and they've got a big, huge family out there. It's like, would you guys let Bo and I build on one of these lots, and pay you for the lot when the house sells? So, banks like that down payment part, right? So,
oh yeah.
And I don't have 30 grand lying around for a lot, but, so they agreed to do it, and we did it, paid them for their lot at closing, and like, well, that was easy, made a little money. So just kind of kept doing it. Well, this land came up for sale near the golf course, or we knew it was about to come up for sale. Been in the family for a long time. So you got to figure out how to pay for it, which we again, just you're talking about great books. My favorite book or my favorite education that kind of helped me figure out how to navigate things to buy assets was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh my God!
So
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki, you just you're not going to take everything in that book and apply it to your life, but there's so many little ideas in there, and I use some of those concepts.
That's one that I think shifts your entire perspective.
Oh, gosh.
On like work and investment,
Right.
and money and everything. Like you can't read that book and not walk away changed.
Right. Almost as a realtor, you're almost scared to tell people to read it because his number one thing is your house isn't an asset.
Yeah.
but it can be.
Yeah.
But anyway, so using some of those Rich Dad Poor Dad principles, we were able to kind of get into that land for a good price, good rate with the bank, but we contracted that April of 2020, the COVID year.
Oh shit.
So you're like, what are we doing?
Did it happen before, or was COVID already going on?
Right. So this is 30, 45 days after everything shut down.
Okay.
So in your mind, you're like, surely this won't be a big deal forever.
Yeah.
But, we actually didn't close till July. So at the closing table, we're closing on this land purchase, knowing that we're going to have to invest well over $1 million to develop it. And we're like, what have we just done?
Yeah.
Right? So,
Oh my God.
but we had a plan. With every investment, you kind of want to know your exit strategy, right? So we always knew, hey, if we fall flat on our face, we can always maybe just survey this out into 20 or 40 acre tracts and get our money back,
Okay.
So I always try to tell people when they're, oh, this is going to be the best deal ever. Well, because I'm a banker, I've heard these stories, with my brain and your money, we're going to be rich. Right? But I always like to ask people, like, on a cloudy day, the daffodils got sprayed by Roundup and they're wilting. How do you navigate a bad scenario where it doesn't work out like you think it's going to work out? So we went into it knowing what our bad day would be.
Okay.
But it's been great. So now we've got, one of our builders contracted their first 2 homes in there. Actually, one he contracted word of mouth on his Facebook page 3 days after he did that, and then the other one,
Wow.
I can't think of his realtor company's name, but she had it on the market for 2 days, and he got a cash offer, full asking price. So got our first 2 comps out there. That'll be great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what are they comping out at per foot?
About 182
Nice.
a foot, right? Yeah.
Nice.
And there's 5 miles south of there on a similar type of property, they're paying over 200 a foot now.
Really?
So it's still a great value because we're 20 minutes from the turnpike. And people, with all this remote work atmosphere, kind of like what you have set up here, is so great that you don't necessarily have to be in the metropolitan area to do great things, network, figure out things. So we're excited.
Well, and that's good. It's a good area out there too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a few things going for you. One, you've got all these people that, from what I've heard, they want to get out of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I hear people wanting to get out of Edmond like crazy.
Sure.
And like specifically over there, kind of on the west side, around like on either side of Broadway, because you hear that it takes 20 minutes to get out of Edmond.
Correct.
Just to get out.
Right.
So a lot of the people, like at the open house I did for Krista a few weeks back, everyone coming in was like, God, I just can't wait to get out of Edmond.
Right.
I'm looking for an acre or, a half acre minimum. And so you guys, I think, were smart in that you did 3/4 acre minimum.
Right.
And then you've got a few out there that are like, what, 2 and 5 or something like that?
Yeah, we have some larger lots. And then we actually, we bought that land and started cutting in streets and doing all that. And a lady showed up, my house burned down. And so I was in the process.
Your personal house burned down?
Right, yeah. So right after we bought that land, that August, golf cart caught fire in my house and burned down and, obviously created all these issues. But I wasn't at my house, and I had a guy out there working on my cabinets, and this lady just shows up, says, I'm so-and-so, I'm from California, and I'm looking for Greg Ireton. And luckily, my cabinet guy didn't get scared, said, okay, here's his number. So I get a call, from Bakersfield, whatever it was, and I didn't answer, and she leaves an email and says, I'm so-and-so, and I noticed what you're doing across the street, and we have a farm across the street, and, my mother's getting elderly, and her brother's getting elderly, and we'd like to maybe see if you'd be interested in buying it. like, wow, So Bo and I'd already kind of we're already almost over waist deep across the street, but we knew this would maybe be a neat opportunity too.
Yeah.
So called her back and went and had donuts and coffee at what's our good donut coffee place?
Oh, Missy's.
Missy's, yeah.
Yeah.
So was able to finalize a deal at Missy's Donuts, and
Dude.
yeah.
So that's the quarter Bo was telling me about.
Right, yeah.
So that's the quarter just to the east of the one you guys are building on.
Right. It's just a beautiful wheat pasture now. A funny story. It's been in the same family since the land run.
What?
So yeah, it's been tilled ground, but it's only been one. It's been in one family since land run. So now, Bo and I own it. We call our company Bo Guy because we like golf. So Bo is his initials, and GI is mine, and we bogey. Make a lot of bogeys in golf. So we call it Bo Guy. So Bo Guy bought a farm, but we're actually in the process now. I think Krista put it out there a little bit on Facebook yesterday. Got 2 5-acre tracts that we're going to sell off, and you were talking about how it is kind of hard to find some lots. We're going to have 6 lots there that we're going to survey off that are ready right now. Already got a paved road in front, already got rural water, already got electricity, so some 1.5 lots there that we're going to
really
go ahead and.
So you guys are already breaking into that quarter over there.
Yeah. Now we got to let the guy farm his wheat, so we
he
cuts wheat in late June. So once the wheat's cut, then we can. But we're trying to get prepared.
Yeah.
Because
have all your ducks in a row. And
right. How it is with real estate. It take 45 days just to get to the closing table sometimes.
Definitely.
So anyway, we're excited about it.
Man, that's cool. So you've got 240 acres over there south of the golf course.
Right.
And so on the second quarter, are you guys just selling off those lots, or are you going to be building over there as well?
Well, Bo and I talk about this a lot. We have a lot of, late evening what do they call it? What do they call when you're drinking adult beverages? Brain fluid. We get
like a brainstorming session.
Yeah, brainstorming, and we get a little hydrated and start coming up with these great ideas. And so he sees a big need. I'm sure you do too, for 55 and older gated community.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see that.
But making it real nice. And a lot of times, you and I talked a little bit about this before. Sometimes you might have some elderly folks that I'm not trying to discriminate against elderly folks, but maybe they don't want a big house payment, or maybe they've got a house paid for and they just want some simplicity, and they're willing to maybe lease something, but they don't want to have to take care of the yard. They don't want to pull weeds in their flower bed.
Yep.
They don't want to repaint the house, or if something goes wrong, it'd be nice to have some kind of service contract. So we envision, hey, you don't have to buy a house. We can make it where it's move-in ready and lease it to you for, fair price, and we take care of all your needs. So we want to have, or you can buy it. So we envision 30 or so homes that are 55 and older, gated, golf course across the street. We want to have a commercial corner. We think 10 years down the road, there's parts of Edmond and even Guthrie, or that you would have thought 10 years ago would never be a hustle and bustle place like it is. So we have a commercial corner where we'd love to have a Hoboken West coffee shop, or
there you go,
or, some Missy's Donuts on the west side, or a good pizza place, or whatever, or a place just to get.
And you're starting to get enough houses over there in the Cedar Valley area that you kind of need that infrastructure. Like you need something over there.
Sure. It's 20 minutes to the turnpike, but it'd be nice if you jump in your golf cart and get some bare necessities.
Yeah, totally. Run to the store, fill up your ice chest, or, whatever you need.
So it's probably a 5 to 10 year project, but we've scribbled on the chalkboard and raced it a bunch of times, but each time we kind of get a little closer, I think, what our goal is.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to go ahead and start small with these 6 lots, 1.5 acres, and then a couple 5-acre tracts, see what that does, and then kind of tailor make, kind of what do they call it, a PUD, planned urban development or whatever, where we really think through, like, hey, where could we put a park, or where could we have some bocce ball at?
Yeah.
Right? Or
man.
Maybe we can have an indoor something or something, whatever.
Yeah.
So just trying to balance it where people have a good sense of community. They're in the country, but still have all the things they need kind of nearby.
Yeah.
And a good people, Just Cedar Valley's got a great group of people out there.
Yeah.
I think people are attracted to that. You know.
In fact, that open house I was telling you about, there was one couple that came through, and they've been Krista's clients for years. But they had heard about the open house. They came up to the golf course, and they said they went and played 9 holes, and then went and hung out at the country club for a little while because they wanted to get a feel for the vibe.
Right.
And I was like, "Well, what'd you think?" And they're like, "Oh, we loved it. I mean, it was fantastic."
Oh gosh, yeah, they got a great setup out there because you don't have to be a excellent golfer to go play Cedar Valley. You know, it's just it's set up to just everyday hackers like myself can go out there and bun it around and have a good time.
Yep.
So
Drink a couple beers, have some fun.
right, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's a really pretty place out there.
it is.
So
are you guys thinking about just sticking around? Obviously, you've got your hands full with Cedar Valley, but are you talking about scaling out at all, or right now you're kind of just hunkering down on Cedar Valley?
Well, just in the nature of being in real estate like you are, if there's an opportunity, we might jump on it, right? So,
Sure.
You know, just anybody out there in the real estate world, you don't want to paint yourself in a box and say, well, this is all I can do.
Yeah.
So I told you I've recently, my brother-in-law and I, and I've liquidated all my rental properties. I don't know if I'm gonna feel stupid about it. You know, I've regretted every house I've ever sold, thinking that I should have held on to it. But I wanted to.
You might have done it at the right time.
You never know. But you know, just to maybe prepare for other opportunities.
Sure.
Stay in real estate though. You know, I didn't sell them because I'm bearish on real estate. Just maybe want to be ready to, like you say, venture off into something different. Doesn't have to be at Cedar Valley, but
Yeah.
we'd love to get into some commercial stuff. You know, I don't know how much. I saw you had that property on South Division.
Yeah.
Going. I mean, I think Guthrie's got. Gosh, there's such a need for some maybe newer commercial property.
I agree.
And that's a great location.
It is. And so you've got that frontage right there on South Division. You go a quarter mile to the north and you've got that new Meridian Technology Center.
Right. Oh, and it's
I think
beautiful.
that's big. Yeah. And then, you know, the apartments behind it. And then you've got the senior living over there as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot coming up over there. And I'm very bullish on Guthrie.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Dude, it's blowing up.
Right.
And
People are always amazed when they come here. I don't know what people's mindset is, but they're like, wow, Guthrie, what a great town. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I love seeing, because I obviously on the you know, Guthrie Talks Facebook page and whatever the other one's called, but every once in a while I'll see you know, a new couple post on there and they'll just say, you know, hey, I'm so and so, this is my husband, blah blah blah, new to town, you know, all this stuff, and I'm like, man, like people are excited to be here.
Oh, yeah.
Excited to move. And actually, check this out. So I got a call from a guy from Bakersfield, California, and he's asking about this community out east of town. And he said, my sister's been out there twice to looking at places. I'm getting ready to move, and I just had some questions about it. And so we're talking about it, and I kind of asked him, you know, what's you know, bringing you out here from Bakersfield? And of course, he talks a little bit about policies and government and everything out there, and how his whole family's just done with California.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, so you've got, you know, a few people moving out. And he's like, well, me and my wife are one of the last ones. We're the 21st and 22nd members of our family to move from California to Guthrie.
That's incredible.
I was like, this entire family moved from Bakersfield, California to Guthrie. That's amazing.
You talk about new people. I always kind of, Bo's brother Nash is always good about people that are negative on the Guthrie Facebook page, or just negative about Guthrie. I'm always a glass half full guy.
Yes.
But it always amazes me, the new people that come to town and kind of, like you're saying, just join on there, just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about with all this negativity. This place is great, you know?
Yeah.
I had stables last night and their ribs were perfect, you know? But,
Yeah.
But people don't know, you know, people come from other states, and I don't think people appreciate how good it is around here, and still affordable.
Yes.
And, you know, just a good group of people. Everything he needs here.
I think you're always going to have the people that just kind of have a negative outlook on everything, or just want to bitch and moan about something, you know, and that's just a part of life. But one thing that I don't get upset about it, but it kind of bothers me, is when people say like, oh, all these, you know, dipshits moving here from California.
Oh, going to change the culture.
You know, yeah, they're going to change the culture. This guy I'm telling you about from Bakersfield, he put it perfectly. He was like, you know, I hear in the Midwest, everyone bitching about people moving out from California, but I'll tell you what, it's not the, you know, crazy left-wing blue-haired people that are moving to Oklahoma. He was like, it's the people that want to get away from that, or, you know, whatever it is. And so that's kind of my thing. I talked to a guy at the hardware store a couple weeks ago, and I was telling him about how much Guthrie's growing and how cool it is to see it. And he was kind of whining about how much more traffic there is in Guthrie. He's like, I wish all these people just go back to California.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, well, when you think about it, sure, they're cashing out on their real estate or their investments or whatever, and they're bringing that money out here, and okay, they're outbidding people or paying cash for their house or whatever. But think about how much cash that is being injected into our local economy.
Gosh.
It's stimulating, builders are starting new construction sites or developments. You've got people bringing their businesses out from California, starting up new businesses. You've got all sorts of capital coming into the local economy.
And there's no doubt that growth has pains.
Sure.
But maybe that same individual would be the one like, Guthrie just doesn't have anything. Well, it's never going to have anything if you don't have, ad valorem and the bonds that are able to get passed. You got to have people.
Yeah.
You got to have, people that are building $500,000 homes. That adds up.
Absolutely.
You see what's going on in southern Logan County.
Yes. Like down at Covell. And
right. Unfortunately, years ago, I don't know how all the school zoning worked, where a lot of southern Logan County is still Deer Creek or Edmond schools, but but that progress or those people are going to be in the Guthrie School District, which is going to, obviously make our superintendent Mike Simpson's job harder. Trying bonds for new schools and improvements. But I grew up in Guthrie schools, and Bo, lots of people I know went through Guthrie and had the great education. Met lots of good people, lots of good relationships. So I'm excited for the growth.
He's another one, Mike Simpson. He's someone I'd like to have on the podcast.
Oh, he'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't met him, but I've heard from Bo and other people that he's doing a great job. And how long's he been the superintendent?
Over 10 years, I believe.
Okay.
He's a Stillwater guy.
Okay. I hear he's doing some good things.
Yeah, and real sharp. He actually, he goes to the church I go to, and he's got a heart for Guthrie. So that he's not just here to draw a check or whatever. He's invested.
That's good.
So, yeah, great. He would be great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think we agree Guthrie's going to be blowing up here soon. What are your thoughts on the increases in housing prices and affordability? And we've got some stuff going on with interest rates right now. We were talking earlier, December, I think the national average was 3.11 rate wise. And today we're at almost 4.75.
Right. It's going to be tougher to navigate for sure. Before I left the bank, I'd still try to keep up with it, but I was listening to a Wells Fargo guy. He's predicting 6% by end of the year. So I think we're kind of getting close to the precipice as far as the curve going straight up. So it would be nice to see things level off. Mm-hmm. Another thing that'll help, you kind of know a little bit about this with Bo and I's situation. Just, it's not that the builders are making a ton more money. Concrete, lumber, copper wire, shingles,
everything,
labor itself. So, it's not like the builders are getting all the dough. It's just the cost of business. Everybody's just trying to maintain their margins. But I think if we can get commodities come down, they're really trying hard with the interest rate environment to drive down inflation. Hopefully that'll help. But it's going to be challenging. We're still very affordable.
Like one of the most affordable
right.
states.
So aren't you from California?
Yeah.
And you were in Vegas for a while?
Yeah.
So I was playing golf out in Vegas not too long ago with some guys, and they lived about an hour north of San Francisco. And it's funny, one of them was a mortgage guy, one of them was a developer, and one of them was a builder. So, right in my wheelhouse. They're building houses out there. Doesn't even count your lots, which are expensive. $800 a foot. For
what, in Vegas or in San Francisco?
About an hour north of San Francisco.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So he was building a 3,000 foot house, not counting the lot, $2.4 million.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And we're building because I see the stuff you guys are building.
Right.
These are not these are nice houses.
Sure.
And you're doing it for $180.
Right. So, hypothetically a 3,000 footer in our edition, same house that they might be building, you'd be what's my math? 520, 525.
Yeah.
But we have some stuff under 400. We definitely want to. Part of our emphasis is we always want to have a product that's not lesser than the rest, but just dollar wise doesn't shock you, you know. So we have one that's a 2100 footer that you can get in for about 385.
Okay.
So
That's not bad at all.
not bad.
Yeah. Man, you mentioned Vegas, and I'm amazed by Vegas because so like in the beginning of my real estate career, I kind of had it in my mind, and I think my mom did this to me. But she begged me when I was younger. So I was in retail management at the time. I was working for Best Buy, and she said, between your income and my credit,
Right.
we could really, start buying some investment property and start renting them out and make some money. And I was terrified of like doing anything with money. I didn't want to let it go.
Right.
Like I had it in the bank and I was like, nurturing it,
What year was it?
And so this was in it kind of started in 05 and 06 was when the seeds started getting planted in my mind. And I pushed and pushed and pushed. And then finally, I had turned 18 and I had started, I guess, just hearing more about investment property and actually kind of like Robert Kiyosaki talks about, the cash flow quadrant and moving from the left side to the right side, getting into investment. That's where wealth is. And so I had a lot going on at that time. And I thought, this is the time to do it. And so this would have been 07.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I think it was July of 07 when I made the move on this house. It was a new construction development. But see, my issue was I didn't educate myself on any of this stuff beforehand. I just kind of said, well, I guess it's the right time to buy a house. I talked to someone about getting qualified. I qualified and I was like, let me do it. But I didn't consult an agent. I didn't have a realtor representing me. I went directly to the builder. He linked me up with a lender. This is how shady it was in 2007. I had just bought a brand new car, Volkswagen Jetta, and I'm sitting at the table talking to this lender. And he asks me, we're going over like my monthly expenses. And he asks me if I want to go ahead and just roll that car into the loan, pay off the car, and it'll save me $400 a month. And at first I was like, I'd love to save $400 a month. I'm adding this $1,600 a month payment. And then I'm just sitting there and I was like, wait, so does that mean that I'd just be paying this over 30 years?
Right.
Yeah. And he's like, well, technically. And I'm like, how does that make sense? So I didn't end up doing that, but I did end up buying the house. And I was I got the loan at a 6% adjustable rate.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Fixed for 6 months.
Oh man.
Fixed for 6 months.
You needed somebody holding your hand there.
Dude, I didn't know what I had just signed up for, but I was over the moon. I bought this house and it was new construction. And so I kind of got to be involved in the front end. Yeah. Making selections. I picked out the countertops and the paint and all that stuff. And I was so excited.
Oh yeah.
My plan was I would live there for a couple years and then maybe I'd buy something else and rent this out or whatever. And so 6 months later, or 7, it was shortly after the ARM expired or the fixed rate expired. And everything started kind of getting shaky in the housing world.
Oh, gosh.
I didn't realize what was happening, but I get my mortgage statement or, my mortgage bill. My payment was like $1,609 or something like that. And it had gone up to $2,900. And I was like, that's not real. Yeah. Someone fucked up.
Where's customer service?
Yeah. And I did. I called the bank and I was like, hey, I think you guys charged me for 2 months. I don't know what's going on here. And she was like, no, your interest rate went up. And so, that's it. That's your payment now.
Oh.
I was like, no, there's no way I can afford that. You're talking $3,000 a month. I don't even make that kind of money. And there's zero flexibility. Here's what they told me, actually. They said, because I asked them, I was like, what's my options? Because I can't pay this. And they said, well, there's a lot of foreclosures right now, and it's going to take them a while to get around to yours. So I would say just stop paying. And you've got a few months. You can live there, save up some money, and go rent something. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, they're telling me to just stop paying for the house.
Right.
and bank a couple months of your mortgage payment, and then that way I can go rent something. Anyway, to make a long story short, that it like wrecked my dreams of being in real estate and destroyed me financially. And then you kind of couple that with my mom had passed away, and I decided to move across the country, and 5-6 months later, my sister passes away. So I'm a wreck.
Oh yeah.
And I had given up. Like I was not even.
It's amazing you're back in real estate.
It is amazing. But yeah,
banks there's a reason why they have such a black eye. It's that letting stuff like that happen. Just because you can afford it and the bank will loan you the money doesn't make it right.
Well, see, I don't even know if I could have afforded it. I think if I remember correctly, I don't even think I had to give them like a tax return or anything. I think I just said how much I made. I really don't remember ever giving them any employment verification, nothing. I think I just said, yeah, I make this. Right. And they were like, okay.
And that's why I don't think we're going to have as bad of a downturn this time. Like you've been involved long enough that those underwriters that underwrite mortgages now, you've definitely got to check the boxes off.
Oh yeah.
Now that's not to say that you can't lose your job, or maybe the oil industry around here falters again, but there's a lot better credit out there than there was then.
So like you're saying the loans are better,
right?
So they're not as shaky.
There's not going to be, and they aren't letting banks do that arm stuff anymore, where you can just, there's a lot of things about the Dodd-Frank Act that I didn't like, but there are some things that are good for consumer protection as far as how much your rate can go up when it adjusts and things of that nature. But
and I think they also put a security mechanism in there, and that's that the rate can't increase. If it does, it can't increase over a certain amount.
Like it's got a ceiling
year.
to it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a huge help, because like mine, I think it went from 6 to 10 or 6 to 11% overnight.
Yeah. Gosh, I did,
Crazy.
Same problem. My first development I ever did, I quit the bank. So I worked at a bank in Guthrie, built a couple houses. Like, this is easy, I got Robert Kiyosaki teaching me every night how to do this. And one of the things Kiyosaki tells you is, it's almost like real estate. Sometimes you have to look at 100 deals to find one, or go through 100 leads. So there might be real estate. There's real estate everywhere. You go, ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that. But you got to analyze that cash flow. Think about the dark day. But I didn't think about the dark day, so I bought 80 acres to develop. Actually, I bought 240, but I couldn't afford 160 of it, so I had a buyer lined up the next day to buy some of it from me. But I did that early 2007. Had my yellow pad, all my costs, just, cost this, gonna sell it for X. Look at all this money.
Yeah.
Well, what happened? So economy tanked. At the same time, oil was going up. So my price of asphalt for my roads almost doubled what I thought.
Oh.
And then, if we start having the housing crash, so the only way I'm going to sell lots now, because I thought I was going to sell some to some builders. Well, I couldn't find any builders to buy my lots. So now I'm sitting there having to build my own houses and sell them just to break even.
Yeah.
Luckily, I got through it. But what I would tell any young real estate person wanting to get into it is just, in real estate, you make your money on the buy. You don't make it on the sell. So don't overpay.
That's so important.
Yeah, if you're hesitant, there's a fine line between glass half full, glass half empty, I guess, or like I said, can't steal second with your foot on first. But you got to know what your exit plan is before you even buy it. And you've had your nose bloodied. I've had my nose bloodied enough. So, Bo likes to tell me I'm the liver and the onions of the partnership. He's the filet and surf and turf.
Yeah.
So I'm always kind of negative Nancy, like,
But you've got to have that.
Yes,
I think it's just like a marriage. I mean, your spouse usually is the complete opposite of you.
Sure.
And I think the same principle applies in business. If you've got two people that are both that super optimistic, we'll figure it out, it'll work.
Right.
You're gonna lose your pants.
Yeah. Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll swing and miss big.
Yeah.
So.
So on the building side, one of the things that I noticed in Vegas, so after that, like maybe late '08, '09, there were all these communities that were like half built. Builders just went out of business,
Oh,
left it.
right.
Like the community I was in, they had built 2 streets, and everything else was just dirt. The only things that were up were these little concrete walls, like your fence for your backyard or whatnot. But that was all over the city.
Oh, I bet.
And for years, you didn't hear anything really about new home builders. The only people that were left were the big builders. And I remember kind of having my eyes open to the numbers as far as new homes go. And this report from NAR said that from 2012 to 2020 or 2021, so that 8 or 9 years, we should have been building 12.5 million new homes to keep up with demand and growth. And in that time, we only built just shy of 7 million new homes.
And we're still trying to make the gap up.
And exactly. So in your mind, I'm trying to look at like the macro environment here, but we've got still a huge demand for real estate, new homes, and I'm seeing more builders kind of come into these markets, or I guess come out or come into existence. I guess I'm wondering, despite prices going up and interest rates going up, people are still going to have to buy. Right? Because the demand's just there.
The law of
it's
numbers.
just there.
Yeah, if you like you said, I've heard it's going to take 5 to 7 years to catch up to where we should be.
Okay.
In Oklahoma, where oil bust, Penn Square, and the '08, '09 debacle, you didn't have D.R. Horton, Toll Brothers. I mean, there's lots of publicly traded companies that are actually building in the Oklahoma area now. You got a big builder like Tabor.
Yeah. Are they just local, or are they a national company?
He's Tulsa. He's actually expanded into Kansas City market, I do believe.
Okay. They build a lot around here.
Oh gosh, I think he did 1,100 homes last year.
Wow. Okay.
But the '07, what you experienced, there was probably a lot of builders that were in their 50s at that time that just threw up their hands, and don't want to get back into it again. So a lot of times that builder that builds 10 or 12 houses a year, they fill a lot of those gaps on that trend line you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's not as many of those guys around now. So
there's still a pretty good opportunity for builders.
So. And it's hard to find the dirt. Nationally you hear about there's lots of regulations, there's a protected beetle here, or they make you pay for a lot of the infrastructure, and just obtaining the dirt and getting through the permitting process is so expensive. And, you get municipalities, or they want growth, but they kind of stymie themselves with making it hard
all the red tape
for the process to even start.
Okay.
So,
one of the things we have going for us is all the farmland, right? So I know a lot of these new developments are popping up on
rural
farmland.
ground, sure.
Yeah. So does that help at all with the bureaucracy and the red tape of it all?
Sure. And water and sewer are always your first things you have to think about.
Yeah.
Now, because we're lucky enough that we're above an aquifer here, and it extends out kind of where we are there, a little bit past, and all the way to the Cimarron, all the way south to Moore and Norman.
Okay.
So luckily, rural areas around here, you can poke a hole in the ground and get water.
Okay.
Now you might have to get a softener or whatever, but sewer, they've had this. Our soil doesn't perk around here the greatest, but they've developed these.
What do you mean perk?
So, like if you have a traditional septic system, if you have clay soil, the water can't permeate the ground; it just sits there.
Okay.
So these aerobic systems that they've come up with help you get rid of the water part of your sewage.
Gotcha.
So you don't necessarily have to have that infrastructure in the rural area, but it's a different set of challenges. But the rural areas are nice, at least for me. I like I love my neighbor, but it's nice if they're a little further away than 5 feet. As far as you see some of those tract homes.
Man, you see some in so just on the south side of the turnpike from our office at Portland and Memorial, you see those homes over there, and these are like $400,000 houses.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And they're like 10 feet off of each other.
Right. It's almost like you're in an apartment building, but there's a street down there.
Yeah.
But,
So I think rural housing is really booming.
Right. There's a niche for it. Some people don't want it. Not everybody wants to get out there and have a brand new John Deere mower and Echo weed eater, and I don't want to spend my whole Saturday cutting my grass and weed eating, but a lot of people don't mind it,
Yeah.
or hire it out, right?
Yeah. Well,
Whereas
and guys want room for a shop or,
Yeah.
Need
Need an escape.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Cool. So I think building is going to boom. I think Logan County's still booming.
Yeah.
And so you think that you're bullish on Guthrie for
Oh, yeah.
years to come.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, you read a lot of real estate books and you see how other towns have grown. It's always the main artery. So we got I-35, you got Highway 33, you got Highway 74. We got tons of major roads that intersect and get you to Guthrie. And we're close, like you say, to Oklahoma City, Edmond.
Close enough that people can live out here,
Right.
and then just make the commute, or
Still go to Trader Joe's if you have to, or Sam's.
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's. Hopefully Guthrie will have something like that one day.
Yeah. I think we will. There's a guy, he's actually looking at this place on South Division that we have listed, and he's a diesel mechanic, and he's got a shop in Oklahoma City, and they live in Guthrie, and they've been operating, I think, a number of years, but he's wanting to shut down the city operation and open up something in Guthrie. And I was like, I think it's genius.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the town's growing, and I really, this is my honest, wholehearted opinion. I think we're only really just starting to see the growth in Guthrie. I think it's going to get big. We've got like 12,500 people here now.
Right.
I think there's going to be 50,000 people in Guthrie before long.
I could see it in 20 years.
Yeah.
I could definitely see it doubling in 6 to 8.
Yeah.
If east of where I live, little rural developments going everywhere, and like you said, just people coming from. It's like, where are these people coming from?
Yeah. Bakersfield.
Yeah, but as soon as they put a sign in the yard, it's gone. Guy that developed 160 acres east of where my house is, over 280 lots. I thought, gosh, that's going to take 10 years, 2 years done.
Really?
Built out and sold.
How many lots do you guys have there at the landing?
99.
99.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we've obviously, I think after this month we'll only have about 75 left.
Really?
Yeah. So we got selling some more this month and next. So
Holy cow.
yeah.
Okay.
And then anywhere from 80 to possibly 120 across the street eventually.
Wow. Are you guys still? I know they're not listed. Is it just word of mouth bringing these people up?
A little bit, yeah. We like to give our builders maybe first shake at one. You'd like to say, hey, before we put this out there, don't want to, you to say, why didn't you let me have, first shake? So we probably talked to a couple of our builders. We got some local guys, Scott Parsons and Renee Parsons with the Parsons and Company. They've built for 20 years here in Guthrie area, and then Elijah and Savannah Morris with Honey Homes, and their houses are gorgeous. I love the ones they've rehabbed here in town. And then Hunter Garrett Fine Homes, Jay Winkle, he's the one's already got his 2 houses sold out there. So, but I think we'll list these in a week or two. We might exclude those builders from the contract in case they want them.
Yeah.
But I know Bo tells me all the time that just they have their builder, they have their plans, but they can't find the dirt, or they can't find where they want to be.
Well, and sometimes, like one of the issues that I've run into a few times recently is that they have land, but they can't find a good builder or a builder that will take the job.
Right. Because, even if you're a marginal builder, you're not hungry.
Yeah.
There were times where I've, done a custom and probably made minimum wage when I totaled it all up at the end.
Oh my God.
But and customs are harder. It's a lot more interaction. And you want them to be happy. But
What do you mean interaction?
So a lot of times, and this may be not 100% true, but I saw this on Pinterest and this is what I want.
Oh, yeah.
This should just, or there's so many shows on TV in 30 minutes, they turn a dump into a beautiful everybody thinks it's an easy process to do a little customized things. It's not impossible, but the subs and people that are qualified to do it are harder to find.
Yeah.
So you sometimes you have to compromise on bells and whistles. Now, if money's no object, we'll get it done for you. But,
Sure.
you know, a lot of times when you start a process, like, here's kind of my drop dead number. I can't. So you hate to tell people no and squish their dreams along the way, but sometimes you have to kind of be I don't know what the best way to put it, like a coach or a fatherly figure, or just, I love you, but we gotta pick and choose our battles here on our wants and needs. So I guess the quicker you can figure out what you want from the beginning and
What's really important to you.
right, and not avoid trying to make changes along the way. You know, that's what I'd tell. Unless you have deep pocketbooks, but so try to iron out as many of your choices up front, just so you can kind of get your numbers.
So one of the things we're working on one that we've got some clients of mine, they bought a lot out there, and we went through with Jay Holman and or no, who was that?
Yep, that's right.
It's Jay Holman, yeah. Did the design for us and everything, and thank you for coordinating all that.
Yeah.
They love the house. But one of the things that, because this was my first experience with a new build being a real estate agent, there were some things that just didn't even click in my head until I would hear you or Bo say it.
Sure.
And one of the things was, they wanted very high ceilings, like tall ceilings, and, all these big windows and, this and that, which is great. And, if you, like you said, if you've got deep pockets or if you've got the money to pay for it, fantastic.
Yeah.
But, we know that, hey, this is their cap. And we had like bumped out a couple walls, made the master bigger, made this bigger, made that bigger. And before you know it, we're $30,000 over what they wanted to spend. And so the solution, I think, at first in their minds was, well, let's cut back on some of this square footage. If we cut out, if we're building for $182 a foot, and we can cut out 200 square feet, then problem solved.
Right.
But
It's
that's
not dollar for dollar.
It's not dollar for dollar.
Right.
And that didn't even click in my head until you said it.
Yeah.
Because
it's like the tall walls. If you have a 16-foot ceiling and you've got a 500 square foot living room, well, it's almost, you've built a 1,000-foot living room, but you don't get the credit for it in your appraisal or whatever else. You have the same square footage, but you've paid for twice the wall space, twice the drywall, twice the paint. So just because and doesn't change the cost of your water well or your propane tank or your septic system, or there's whether it's a 3,000-foot home or a 2,000-foot home, you're going to buy the same thing as that 3,000-foot guy bought. The 2,000-footer guy's having to spend the same amount of money on his house on those particular items.
Okay.
So just because you lower your footage a little bit doesn't mean that you're not spending those fixed dollars there. So actually, the bigger you go, in theory, your price per foot should come down. Your builder should be able to work with you a little bit on some items. You just don't want to make the realtors mad. Like, well, don't sell that for less per foot than what we're trying to get our comps to, So,
yeah.
But, so you just want to balance it out. But most builders, you have to find one that wants to take the time to do that with you. Some of them are just like, hey, just show me the plans. I'm going to build your house. It's going to cost X.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and you guys kind of go through through everything with the client. Like I remember I had called Bo the other day, and you guys were out running around picking out, what were fixtures or this and that, and so you guys kind of handle everything.
Try to, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people come to you like, well, what's popular? Some people are real easy. Like, well, just make it look good, or what's popular, or show me three things. We're building one for Bo's sister-in-law's sister. And we took her to the showroom, we were in and out of there in an hour, she wanted to keep it simple. I need to stay on budget, but show me 3 or 4 choices, and like, Greg, is this good? Yeah, that's good. We just move on to the next one.
Do you take them to the showroom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that they start getting like analysis paralysis, looking at everything?
Yeah, that's kind of, sometimes you go in, you're like, this is either going to be 3 hours or we're going to throw up our hands in an hour and like start over.
Yeah.
But this particular customer, it's helpful to call ahead to your designer, say, hey, this is kind of the price point we need to be at. Can you go ahead and get some stuff out that meets that? So you try to plan ahead for the customer, because you don't want to see something, oh, well, that's $9 a foot. Let's go ahead and get stuff out on the table that we already know is going to be in the price point. So that's something you can do ahead of time.
Okay. So if you're building a new house for someone, is there like a line item budget so that they know like, hey, I'm spending this much on fixtures, I'm spending this much on this?
Right. Yeah. The caveat to that is it seems like every 30 days I'm getting a price increase notice from my concrete guy, my brick guy, my roofing company, the lumber guy, the commodity based items,
Yeah.
even flooring, So it's getting harder to meet and talk with somebody and then start 90 days later, the goalpost might have been moved on you.
Okay.
Whereas before, 6 to 12 months, you could generally
You can be pretty close.
be okay. So now we're having to pay attention to that. So what I'm trying to do in my budgets is maybe the customer doesn't know it, but I try to have a little bit of wiggle room in some of my numbers and, to not just have to drop bad news every time on them.
Okay.
So try to fudge a little bit, best you can, and stay in their budget.
Yeah. So
But it's
maybe
hard.
like working in like a trying to think of what to call it, but kind of like a emergency fund
Right.
or like an overage pool.
Right, right.
Okay.
And when you have a line item budget, you might know, well, if I was doing this today, it would cost X. Well, I'm going to go ahead and round up $1,000 in case 30 days from now I get a price increase. It might only be a $200 price increase, but I've cushioned that line item where I know I'm not going to have a red figure next to it. So because
Okay.
at the end every day on my Excel spreadsheet, I'm black, red, black. It's turning more red these days.
Jeez.
Every line item, you're like, oh gosh, that was more than I thought. So at the end, it's either lots of times it sometimes comes out of the builder's pocket. Just like, well, you want to appease the customer.
Take care of them.
Yeah, sometimes you get to the end of the deal, they're capped out. Well, how are we going to make this work?
Yeah.
But you try to early on, like if we need to steer the Titanic before it hits the iceberg, we need to start doing it now.
Okay.
I don't want to drop a bad news on them at closing time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, by the way, you need to write me a check for $25,000.
Say what?
Right. So you try to make it where it's like 45 days in, hey, $1,000 over. Here's where we are.
Yeah.
We're this much over, so we need to watch our P's and Q's.
So you keep like when you're working with these clients, do you stay in like daily, weekly, biweekly communication with them? Like
Yeah. So something Bo's great at, and I'm terrible, and since I've quit the bank, I need to get better at it. We have an app called Builder Source or something, but it's an app on your phone where you can give your client a login, and they can see your budget or see the stages of how we are building and what's next and what communication's been had, and here's our select. You can upload your selections into it, and they can have the login. They can't see anybody else's build, but they can see their build, and it's all on their phone.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to get better at utilizing that. Bo's been playing around with it for a while, but I haven't been able to get into it yet. I'm, like I said, yellow pad or Excel spreadsheet. That's the best I can do. But I want to get better at this app so that when it keeps everybody organized too. I don't forget something. I can go in every night and see. They can go in anytime.
Yeah.
Just because my heat and air guy showed up, I'm not going to call them and tell them, but they can see it if I entered into the app that they can look at that, oh, the ductwork got run today. You just go in there today, this happened today, and type it in, and they can see it.
Okay.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So
it allows them to have a little more like a sense of control over what's going on in the build and what's happening when.
Yeah, because, you'll have a customer say, well, when do we need to, worry about picking out our paint color or whatever? It's like, we don't even have drywall yet or whatever. It's just like, well, there's nothing wrong with thinking about it now, but we don't have to make all those selections right now. Or, I need a special faucet here. It's like, well, we'll get there. So this app kind of helps you see, well, this is what's next. So you're always trying to, they want to know what's next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why has nobody been at my house for a week?
I think it's the same thing in real estate, like on the purchase or sale side of things. Like I found that even more than I thought initially, it's important to keep them up to date just with what's going on or what's supposed to be happening right now or what the next step is. Because people don't do this every day, and so they're selling their house. They kind of want to know, like, hey, so what's after this?
Right.
Or where are we going next?
And I might not be worried about it, but I'm bad about, hey, I know you do this a lot, Greg, but this is their first time. It's a big investment. Even if nothing's happened, touch and feel, let's reach out and say, hey, nobody was here, but here's some updates I've had from a supplier, or, hey, I talked to this sub. Here's the plan. Because every build has its challenges, just like anything in real estate. There's time delays, weather, price increases, or that's out of stock, or whatever.
Are you seeing a lot of things out of stock right now or back ordered?
Back ordered, not necessarily that you're never going to get it, but, well, that's 6 months out. Well, I kind of need it in 90 days. Well, here's what I can get you in 90 days. So sometimes you have to substitute items like a fireplace, for instance, or here a while back, if everybody loves the black hardware.
Oh yeah.
Can't get black hinges.
Why? What? I don't really understand why
I think
all this stuff is.
Everybody likes to blame it on maybe things are outsourced to China or wherever, but the COVID shutdowns and, like I say, just everybody building. I don't understand it either.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Well, and I get, like, when we were kind of in the midst of COVID or coming out of it, the supply chain issues totally made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Supermarket shelves were a little empty, or, this was back ordered, this was back ordered. It takes time to catch up. I understand. But in my mind, at least, I feel like we're far enough out of this that we should have been able to catch up a bit.
Right.
But I don't know. It almost feels like this culmination of whatever supply chain issues and inflation. And so, like, manufacturing costs are high.
Mm-hmm.
So manufacturers aren't producing as much because they can't afford it, but the demand's still there. So I don't know.
Well, and you hear companies talk about they can't find people, so
Yeah.
Whereas you might have the people we buy brick from, where they might be running a regular shift and what do they call the shift that's like from 7 to 11?
Oh, like a split.
A swing shift or
Or
whatever.
a swing shift, yeah.
Maybe not 24 hours, but now they just don't have enough employees to, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if there's just been, I don't know why we don't have enough people in the workforce. That baffles me too.
I don't get it.
Because, I'm broke. Every time, it's up.
Yeah.
How are people making money?
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I see a lot is people, especially younger people, they'll post on Facebook or something. Does anyone know of a good paying job?
Right.
Or, does anyone know of whatever, something that pays more than 15 an hour or whatever?
Right.
And I'm like, man, I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I guess they keep living at home until they find it. But,
yeah.
I'm not trying to be political, but, I wish they'd figure out this immigration deal, because, there's so many people that would love to have those jobs,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know it's a fiasco down there at the border, but just getting into our country, my wife, she works for a pulmonologist, and her family's from Hungary, and they can't come. It's just hard for them to get come visit, or even if they wanted to move here. I just wish there's a better system.
Yeah.
Because lots of people want to come to America.
Yeah. And they want to work. And, here's something I used to hear. I don't know if you're familiar with Earl Nightingale, but I absolutely love his stuff. And, he did the whole strangest secret in the world, we become what we think about, back in like the early 50s. Yeah. But he, at one point, ends up talking about how America is the land of opportunity, the greatest civilization really that's ever existed, and how you can come here and make your dreams happen, literally. And he kind of pulls some numbers. Obviously, this is all from way back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, but he talks about the average immigrant that comes in. They could be a millionaire inside of 5 years,
right? Because
they come in and they know, like, America is the land of opportunity.
Sure.
I can do it. If I can just get there, I can make it happen. And they get here and they do it.
I think, have you ever seen that graph? Nationalities that live in America, and their either their income or their wealth or whatever, just people like you and I, we're just down in the middle. If people from from India or from China or just different regions of the world that are hardworking people, that they come here with boots on the ground, ready to get after it.
Yeah.
I think America has kind of lost a little bit of its work ethic. I don't know. I don't know.
I agree. And again, without getting too political,
right.
I think there's a lot of I want this, but I don't want to pay for it, kind of thing. Like in terms of work ethic or sweat, put sweat equity in it. And I used to hear this this expression when I was wanting to like get a new job or a better job. My mom would say, well, you got to get out there and pound the pavement. You know, you got to figure out what you want and, you know, go get it and this and that. And I kind of like back then had this thing like, well, you know, let me surf around and put a bunch of applications in and do this and do that. But it really wasn't until a number of years ago that I think I just realized like, man, no one's going to do this shit for you.
Oh, no.
And there are people coming in by the truckloads from other countries that are hungrier than you.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not showing up to the table, they're going to eat your fucking lunch.
Yeah, you're going to lose.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10 or 10 out of 10.
You said something early on. Something you did where I don't even know if you said you got paid for it. I can't remember what it was, but it was more of I'm just here to learn.
Yeah, but you come to the table as a learner.
Right. So, you know, that's the first chapter of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He describes how, you know, my rich dad, he made me come work in the grocery store. And
yes.
I thought on Friday.
For a dime an hour, something like that. 10 cents
I'm getting
an hour.
ripped off here.
Yeah.
You know, what's going on? And, you know, he talks about how it took him so long to figure out this is like getting a free college education.
Exactly.
You know, I'm going to show you the way, you know, and how to, you know, we talked earlier about the guy that found vintage T-shirts in Goodwill stores, and you know now we got NBA players buying them for $100.
And these guys have ended up turning that into a business,
Big business, yeah.
And they're making big money.
Yeah.
You know,
so people just, you know, like you say, there are people though. I mean, you're like me. I love following people on Twitter that give those success stories, you know, and how they made it, how they did it, and you're like, gosh, I'm smart enough to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but too many people, I think, get discouraged. You know, one defeat.
What is it that makes people discouraged to go out there and make something happen? Because like you had all this early experience with real estate investment, kind of dabbled in it for a while. But in my mind, when I think about you leaving the bank and going out on this limb that could cost you everything. Sure. But you know you were willing to take the risk, and you made it happen. And some would say, "Oh, he just, you know, confident enough, or whatever it is." But it's more than that. There's something else.
Well, this might sound weird, and I might be way off base here, but you always hear about the kids that everybody gets a ribbon at the end of the season, you know, or gets no reward. So I just think some of our youth have been trained that you can do it half-assed and you're still going to get a prize at the end. Well, once the real world hits, you can't half-ass it and get a reward, you know.
It doesn't work like that.
So even to show more lack of education, you know, it's like, I believe in what Ricky Bobby said. You're either first or you're last, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, so, well, and to that point.
Second place, you're first loser.
Yeah, I like that. If you ain't first, you're last.
Yeah.
But to that point, if you don't go out with the expectation that, you know, hey, I could do this and I could be the number one builder in this area,
whatever, or
the number one agent in this area, or I could do this, you know, I think people don't dream big enough.
Right. You know, what's Lou Holt's 4 things you need in life? Something to do, someone to love, something to believe in, and something to hope for. You know, so you could break it down into, you know, someone to love, spouse, something to do, you know, keep your brain active, be busy. You know, I don't care where you are in your walk of life. You got to wake up every morning with a purpose, something to do.
Yeah.
Something to believe in, you know, whether that's spiritual or what have you. And then something to dream about. So even though you're trying to accomplish certain things, what's my 10-year dream, you know? So always be thinking about what your 4 things are, your purpose. And I think when kids that don't get the ribbon or their first few ventures out, they get hit in the mouth and like, well, that's too hard.
And they give up.
And I didn't even get a ribbon for it. You know? Yeah. Right? I didn't get a trophy. No participation trophy. It sucks.
Man, I think that is probably one of the biggest things is that people give up too early, too fast.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to like take the hickeys or, you know, get slugged in the jaw, fail. Because at the end of the day, like that's where you learn.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've learned more from the houses you fucked up on than anything else.
That's the best, you know, I call it, you know, sometimes when you overpay for like, well, that hurt. Well, that's free tuition for later. You know?
Exactly. Won't make that mistake again.
Let's try not to do that. And not that you won't make the same mistake, but you might handle it better the next time too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the people that come to America, they're not going to take the first punch and fall down.
No.
You know,
No, they see this as the land of opportunity.
Right. Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth, right? So those people come here, they know they're going to get hit in the mouth. They know they're going to have an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But they persevere. So,
Yeah.
So if I was somebody young or whatever, and maybe I'm trying to learn that mindset as a youngster or young realtor or young real estate investor, just follow people that Twitter or just even locally, find a Craig in your life, or find a Bo, find somebody that's already kind of killed the dragon, and man, just rub elbows with them, because they'll be the first. It's easy to look at somebody and say, "Gosh, must be nice to be them." It's like, well, a lot of tears, a lot of blood, a lot of things happen to be successful.
Yeah, can't just look at someone that's made the money and think like, oh, must have been nice.
Don't be jealous of them. Don't make excuses about it. Find out how to be like, imitation's the best form of flattery, right? So
there you go.
I tried to learn by osmosis. Always surround yourself with smarter people.
Yeah.
So it's not hard for me to do.
Man, Greg, it's been awesome to have you.
Yeah, great.
This has been good conversation.
And this is so wonderful.
I
think this is really going to grow what you're doing, and what a service to people.
I think it's good. It's nice having people like you on, or, a home inspector or another lender, someone, and just, this is great information to have.
Right.
It's good for me to learn. And I feel like if it's valuable for me, it's going to be valuable for someone else. So
exactly. Well, thanks for having me.
Means a lot. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
We'll catch you guys on the next one.